Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day to everyone. Hi, Dr. Zuhair here, and this is for the course of EPF3108 Mass and Energy Balance. Before this, you already learned about the units and unit conversions. So now we are moving to the next subtopic, which is about the process and process variables. This is going to be a very short video to brief you about the definition of a process and process variables. So as a food and process engineer, we need to know the definition of a process. Basically, any operation by which a particular objective is accomplished can be called as a process, in which it contains several entities such as the input or feed, the process unit, and output, which is the product. So we have the input here, we have the process, and then we have the output, and maybe we have some feedback loop here. If there are any multiple steps, each will be a process unit with its own process stream. So it can be one process here, or it can be a lot of processes along the way to produce from the input to get the output. For instance, like if we want to see from the food engineering perspective, as a food engineer, you might be called to design and operate a process. For instance, like if you want to bake a cake, let's say, the process involved may include mixing and baking. So that's the process, and you need to design that as a food engineer. It may involve determining and manipulating a few processing variables. So within that process, there are a lot of processing variables. What is the meaning of process variables? A physical or chemical quantity that is usually measured and controlled in the operation. So these are the list of examples of process variables such as temperature, pressure, density, specific gravity, flow rate, moles, and concentration. So we are going to go a little bit further to understand more about some of the processing variables here, including the temperature, pressure, density, specific gravity, and so on. But I would like to give you an example of what does it mean by a process and what are the processing variable, the process variable involved in a process. Okay, let's imagine that we are going to bake a cake. Okay, imagine that we are doing a chocolate cake production, let's say. How many of you know how to bake a cake? Well, you can use your own experience to imagine the whole process, right? So to bake a cake, the first thing that we need is the raw materials. So this might include the flour, egg, milk, water, and chocolate, of course, because this is a chocolate cake, so chocolate, and so on. So there are a lot of raw materials that we need. So all of this raw material, we need to go to the first process, which is the mixing process. So just going to put it in a box so that you know that this is a process. After mixing, what is the next process? Of course, after we mix all the ingredients, we need to bake it. So all the raw materials will have to undergo the baking process. So this is another box to show that this is also a process. And then after baking, we have the final product, which is the chocolate cake. Okay, so this is basically the process of baking and to produce chocolate cake. Yeah, at the end here, this is the input, This is the process. And this is the output. So we are focusing now to the processes that involve in this chocolate cake production. For mixing, what are the process variables that might include? It might include, let's say, speed of the mixing, speed. Normally we put it in the RPM, rotation per minute. Maybe time, how long that you want to mix your batter, your ingredient, or maybe concentration. Such as how dilute your mixer, how dilute your ingredient that you want to make, or how dense it will be. So it's related to concentration. And for baking, of course, it will relate to the temperature. What temperature that you normally use in order to bake a cake? 180 degrees C, 200 degrees C, it's up to the process engineer to decide. And then what are the other process variable? Time, maybe how long that you want to do the baking. 15 minutes, is it enough to bake a cake? 30 minutes? And sometimes it's related to the temperature of the oven. And last, maybe another process variable that might include is also like humidity. Some oven doesn't have fan. Some other oven does have fan. So if the oven have fan, so it's going to eliminate all the humidity, the moisture that had been released from the cake, so that the surrounding atmosphere in that baking area will be a bit dry compared to the conventional oven and so on. So what I want to say here, that these are the speed, time, concentration, temperature, time, humidity, all of these are considered as the process variable. Okay, so this is not only the process but also the process variable. And all of these process variables, some of them require us to get to more details, such as the temperature. We need to know what is the specific temperature and how to convert from one temperature to another, and the heat distribution and so on. And also in terms of, let's say, speed, in terms of the rotation per minute, and how it's going to impact to the ingredient that we are mix. And also the concentration and so on. So all of this requires some more details, and that's what we are going to learn later in this course about the process variables, including some of the selected process variables such as the temperature, pressure, specific gravity, concentration and so on. So I really hope that you at least got some idea about the process and process variable by imagining the chocolate cake production. Well, that's for now, and hopefully we're going to get to understand more about the process and process variable later. Thank you. Bye bye.